The Los Angeles Chargers are finally showing their hand as we approach the draft, and it's starting to feel like we can piece together exactly what direction they might go. After a flurry of moves during free agency, there's a growing sense that the team has covered enough ground to finally embrace a best player available approach when they're on the clock. And let's be honest, that's an exciting place to be. Not every team gets to enter the draft with the freedom to truly select whoever stands out on the board, without being handcuffed by glaring roster holes. That doesn't mean they don't have needs. Every team does, but it's a signal that the front office believes in the core it's built, and now they're looking to add playmakers, not just patchwork. Now, let's break this down. The quarterback position is stable. There's no need to panic or even entertain the idea of using high capital there. The Chargers know who their guy is, and there's no reason to shake that up. At running back, things get a little more interesting. Gent, who had been in the mix, is likely not going to be part of the equation anymore. That opens up an opportunity, and names like Omar and Hampton have begun to surface as intriguing prospects. Hampton has the power, the explosiveness, and the production that jumps off the page. Definitely a name to watch in the earlier rounds. But even more intriguing is the idea that Caleb Johnson, whom many see as a first-round talent, might actually slip into the second. If that happens, the Chargers would be in a great position to scoop him up and immediately inject versatility and toughness into their backfield. And let's not forget about the Ohio State duo. Two running backs from that program are generating a lot of buzz, and both could be realistic targets in that second-round window. The running back class is deeper than some years past, and that plays perfectly into the Chargers' hands. Imagine walking away with one of those top-tier guys without needing to use your very first pick on the position. That's the kind of draft day flexibility that makes fans and front offices salivate. But here's the thing. It gets even more exciting when you look at the potential value in the third round. Players like Dylan Sampson and Jordan James are the kinds of backs who may not be top 10 picks, but they bring that energy, that toughness, that ability to change a game in one snap. Finding one of those guys still on the board in round 3 would be a dream scenario. And when you combine that with the knowledge that the team can still address other positions of need later in the draft, it paints a very optimistic picture. The Chargers aren't boxed into one path. They have options, and they have leverage. And that's where things start to get strategic. Because while the headlines focus on the first-round splash, the true success of a draft is often determined by what you do in those middle rounds. The Chargers have clearly done their homework, and there's a belief that they're mapping out every possible scenario. Wide receiver is another area that deserves attention. This team needs a playmaker. There's no way around it. Losing a step in the passing game would be a massive setback, especially in a league where high-powered offenses dominate. And that's why names like Tate McMillan and Matthew Golden are circulating. Both are ranked high by analysts, including PFF, and they've proven they can deliver. The issue? Availability. Ranked 12th and 15th respectively, it's unlikely either of them will still be around when the Chargers pick again after round 1. So what do you do when your top options are likely off the board? That's when players like Luther Burden start to shine. He might not be as hyped nationally, but the talent is real. The ceiling is there. And if he's available, he becomes an instant solution. Mekal Bua is another possibility. He's been projected as a late first-rounder, and there's chatter that the Chargers could be interested if the board falls the right way. But the real fun begins when you start looking deeper into the draft, 3rd and 4th rounds, where value and potential intersect. One of the most intriguing names in that space is Isaiah Bond. This guy is pure speed. A former track athlete with blistering quickness and the kind of raw athleticism that's tough to teach. What makes him stand out isn't just his athletic profile, but his reliability. He runs clean routes, he shows up in big moments, and he's got the kind of upside that could turn into something special in the right system. This is where teams make their money, finding that hidden gem who grows into a star. And the Chargers seem to be setting themselves up to do exactly that. They're not rushing, they're not reaching. They're playing the long game, and it's refreshing to see a team trust its process. When it comes to tight ends, there's a similar mindset. Tyler Warren and Carlson Loveland are both solid prospects, but realistically, they might be off the board by the time the Chargers are ready to address that need. And that's okay, Because the urgency isn't there. It's not about scrambling to fill holes. It's about building a complete, competitive roster through smart, calculated moves. Elijah Arroyo is a name that's come up in those conversations. A tight end who may not be flashy, but has all the tools to be dependable at the next level. Think about the strategy here. You go defensive line in round one. Shore up the trenches with a strong, athletic presence. Then you grab Arroyo in round two to solidify your tight end group. By the time you're back on the clock in round three, you're still in position to get a solid running back. That's a complete draft foundation, and it all stems from not locking yourself into one need. It's all about flexibility. Now let's switch gears just slightly and talk about that offensive line. Because if there's one place where the Chargers can still make a huge impact, it's up front. There's a player on their radar, 6 feet, 7 inches tall, who could be a massive addition, literally and figuratively. This is a guy who brings size, power, and reach, and could lock down one of those interior line spots that still feels a bit unsettled. Right now, they're really just one strong guard away from completing that puzzle. And the beauty is, the draft is full of linemen who may not have the spotlight, but are absolute maulers in the trenches. You bring in one of those guys early, and suddenly the offensive line is no longer a concern. That gives you the luxury to wait on a tight end, grab your running back when the value lines up, and maybe even throw a dart at a developmental wide receiver with upside later on. Everything starts to fall into place when you're not drafting from a place of desperation. That's what the Chargers are building towards. And from the outside looking in, it feels like they're right on the edge of something big. They position themselves to not just fill holes, but to elevate the roster. The groundwork has been laid through smart free agency moves, and now they're heading into the draft with clarity. It's no longer about chasing. It's about choosing, and that's a powerful place to be. But back to business, because wide receiver remains a position that demands attention. If there's one area the Chargers absolutely must hit on in this draft, it's adding a dynamic target to stretch the field and give this offense another gear. With big names possibly off the board by the time they're picking, the question becomes, do they take a swing on potential or wait it out for better value? That's where guys like Luther Burden really come into focus. He's not the top name on every list, but what he brings to the table is undeniable. Route running, hands, football IQ. Mekal Bua's name is also floating around. He's got that first-round projection attached to him, but depending on how things shake out, he might be there when the Chargers are on the clock. Still, if we're being honest, it's the mid-round wideouts that really get draft nerds excited. That's where teams make their mark. And if you're the Chargers, keeping your eyes on Isaiah Bond makes a ton of sense. This guy's story is wild. A track background, insane top-end speed, and he's shown he can translate that to football. He's not just fast, he's efficient. There's a difference. Some receivers are burners but lack discipline. Not Bond. He runs smart routes, he tracks the ball well, and he plays like someone who's hungry to prove himself. That's the kind of receiver that fits into your locker room and elevates everything. Tight end is a little trickier, especially with names like Tyler Warren and Carlson Loveland potentially off the board earlier than expected. But again, the Chargers don't need to panic. They've got a plan. Elijah Arroyo fits the mold of a reliable, versatile tight end who doesn't need the spotlight to shine. He's the kind of player that can quietly become a starter by year 2 just by showing up, doing the work, and grinding it out. You land him in round 2? That's a solid win. Pair that with a defensive lineman early and a running back with juice in round 3, and suddenly the draft looks like a masterpiece. And let's not forget the importance of locking down the offensive line. We talked about the 6'7" monster earlier, but let's go deeper. The Chargers need a guard who can step in, hold the line, and let the skill guys go to work. If they land someone in that mold early, someone who can move, protect, and push, they won't just improve their run game. They'll buy their quarterback more time, open up the playbook, and make the entire offense more dangerous. It's that foundational. And the best part? There's depth in this draft at offensive line. The talent is there. They just have to make the right call when the time comes. Here's the beauty of how this all comes together. When you don't force the board, when you trust your evaluations and your strategy, the draft works for you. That's the vibe coming out of the Chargers front office right now. There's confidence. There's preparation. They're not chasing flashy headlines or making desperate moves. They're positioning themselves to let the board fall naturally and then take advantage when value meets need. And when that happens, you walk away not just with talent, but with a team that feels complete. Of course, the potential for trades is always lingering. There have been whispers, some louder than others, about deals in the works, but let's be honest, nothing is likely to go down before draft day. The Chargers are in a spot where they don't need to force it. If something materializes, great. If not, they're still in control. There's been some speculation about a certain wide receiver being available, but between his age and contract, the interest seems to be cooling. Same with a veteran tight end who was once a hot topic. The reality is this front office values its draft capital. They're not giving that up for aging players. If they want a tight end, they'll find one in the draft. Smart teams know when to walk away, and right now, the Chargers are playing it smart. The countdown is real. Draft day is right around the corner, and the energy is building. Fans are buzzing, analysts are throwing out last-minute mocks, and the front office is quietly finalizing their board. That anticipation, it's electric. And while we wait to see who the Chargers pick, there's still time to debate the best taco in San Diego. I came across a list earlier, and I have to admit, I couldn't even make it past the first entry without getting hungry. One place had a filet mignon taco that looked absolutely insane. Another spot was pushing spicy tacos that'll knock you back a step, and then there was this wild one with squash blossoms and beet sauce that just sounded weirdly amazing. Oh, and carne asada? Always a go-to. Toss in some fresh guacamole, and now you've got the perfect pre-draft meal. So yeah, while we're breaking down prospects and trade rumors, don't be surprised if we circle back to tacos. It's part of the experience. Draft season is all about building the future, but sometimes it's also about the simple joys, like a great taco and the hope that the next pick changes everything. Keep those opinions coming, stay locked in, and get ready, because the Chargers are about to make some noise. But before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on the Los Angeles Chargers. Feel free to share your thoughts on the news in the comments as well. In a move that's already turning heads across the NFL, the Los Angeles Chargers have reportedly zeroed in on Tampa Bay Buccaneers quarterback Baker Mayfield as their top target for a potential blockbuster deal. The buzz around the Chargers headquarters has reached a fever pitch, with multiple sources confirming that the franchise has launched an aggressive internal campaign to explore the feasibility of acquiring the 29-year-old signal caller. While Mayfield recently inked a 3-year extension worth up to $100 million with Tampa Bay, the Chargers' interest appears to be undeterred, signaling a potentially seismic shakeup in the quarterback landscape. The intrigue surrounding Mayfield stems from his dramatic resurgence in 2023. Once labeled a journeyman after stints with the Panthers and Rams, the former Heisman Trophy winner silenced critics by delivering one of the most statistically impressive stretches of his career. His standout performance against the Chargers themselves, throwing 4 touchdowns and leading the Bucs to a commanding 40-17 victory, is believed to have left a lasting impression on the Bolts front office. That single game, in which he dismantled what was then the NFL's top-ranked defense, may have sparked the very obsession the Chargers are now acting upon. For Los Angeles, the pursuit of Mayfield signals a clear shift in organizational thinking. Despite the presence of Justin Herbert, a quarterback many regard as the face of the franchise, internal whispers suggest growing concerns over the team's stagnation under current leadership. Injuries, inconsistent offensive schemes, and playoff heartbreak have cast a shadow over Herbert's tenure. Sources close to the situation indicate that the Chargers brass is exploring all avenues to elevate their competitiveness, and Mayfield's fiery leadership, playoff pedigree, and recent uptick in production present an enticing alternative or, perhaps, a shocking tandem scenario. From Tampa Bay's perspective, losing Mayfield would be a stunning reversal, especially after betting big on him with a lucrative extension just months ago. Yet NFL insiders caution that no deal is ever truly off the table. If the Chargers were to sweeten their offer with a combination of premium draft capital and win-now assets, the Buccaneers could be tempted to reconsider, particularly with salary cap gymnastics always looming. Such a scenario would not only redefine Tampa's immediate outlook, but also send ripples throughout the NFC South, where Mayfield's presence has become a stabilizing force. Whether this interest materializes into concrete negotiations remains to be seen, but one thing is clear. The Los Angeles Chargers are not content watching from the sidelines anymore. With a potential quarterback coup in the works, the NFL world is bracing for what could become one of the most shocking moves in recent memory. If Baker Mayfield does end up in powder blue, it won't just be a roster change. It'll be a statement of intent, a declaration that the Chargers are ready to gamble big in pursuit of glory. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the Los Angeles Chargers, please subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. We always look forward to your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.